I'm going to start this morning by letting you know that months ago, your stewardship team had decided that today, this Sunday, would be the Sunday that I would preach about stewardship. And if you've been paying attention to the news, then you know that there was on Tuesday a presidential election, which means that I have never in my life been so excited to preach a sermon about money. And I'm guessing you have never in your life been so excited to hear a sermon about money. Because that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about stewardship. And I think it's amazing how sometimes the lectionary seems to work in our favor. When there's something we need to talk about as a community, the lectionary always seems to come through for us. And today's gospel passage is the prescribed gospel passage for the day. Churches all over the world are listening to this gospel passage that we just heard. We didn't force it. We didn't put in a different gospel passage so that we, to match our agenda. This is the gospel that we are hearing all around the church today, all around the world. And is there a better story to use to talk about stewardship than the story we heard today, the story of the widow's mite? How convenient that we get to hear that story, because it's such an important reminder for all of us. It's so important for all of us to hear. And we have to ask ourselves the question, what is it that this story is trying to tell us? Is it telling us that we should give every one of our last pennies to the church, even if it puts us in a place of financial hardship? It's easy to hear that message in that story, but that's not what this story is really trying to teach us. It's a reminder for us instead that we want to give of ourselves according to our means, according to what we have in our lives. If we don't have much, then anything that we can offer is a wonderful gift. And if we have a whole lot, well, then we're comfortable offering even more of ourselves. Our message for our stewardship campaign this year is Hope Grows Here. Let me say that again because it's important. Hope grows here. Okay? And when we say that, we want to explore what it is that we mean when we say the word hope, because we use that word hope all the time. Right? We say, I hope the Cardinals are going to win their football game today, right? Or I hope we have spaghetti for dinner tonight. We say that a lot. We say that word hope. But when we use hope in that sense, we're not really giving credit to the value of this word, because hope is a Christian theological virtue. It's not just, I hope for this. It's something much bigger than that. And Thomas Aquinas defined hope for us as a future good, difficult but possible to attain by means of the divine assistance on whose help it leans. Now, when I studied theology at Notre Dame, I was taught that the virtue of hope is the desire of something together with the expectation of obtaining it. Okay? And St. John's is a place where hope grows. And through our stewardship, we put in the work that ensures that continues to happen. Now, when we talk about finances, it's uncomfortable, and we know that finances are complex, right? But we are encouraged to offer what we call the true biblical tithe of 10%. Okay? 10% is usually considered the standard amount that most people can afford without going into a financial hardship. Now that word tithe, by the way, literally means tenth. That's what that word means. It comes to us from the Old English word, telth. Okay? And you can kind of hear that somewhere if we pay attention to the accent, that it means tenth. That's literally what the word means. Now, some churches insist and perhaps even require that their members give that full 10%. I'm not going to go that far, but I'm going to suggest that we offer that true biblical tithe if we are able to do so. Like the widow in the gospel, we don't want to place ourselves in a place of hardship, right, if we're not able to offer more. But also, like the widow in the story today, each of us has something that we can offer. Okay? And truthfully, stewardship is not about money. We hear stewardship and we think money, but stewardship isn't about money. It's about gratitude. It's about gratitude. And it's an offering and a thanksgiving for the blessings that we have in our lives. And it's Eucharistic in nature. And they might be asking, how? How is stewardship Eucharistic in nature? Well, think of the Eucharist as a visible example of thanksgiving. The communion bread that we use here at St. John's, we make it right here in our kitchen. We make that bread. But even if we didn't make that bread, we'd still have to buy bread to use. And that bread, regardless of where it comes from, is made by humans. Right? The wheat used in bread is farmed, and it's milled, and it's kneaded, and it's baked, and then we break it together. All that is done by humans. And the wine that we use comes from grapes. And grapes that are farmed, grapes that are raised, they're crushed, they're fermented, they're bottled, they're poured, all by human hands. And yet, at the Eucharist, we take these gifts that human hands have prepared and we offer them up to God. And where did they come from in the beginning? Before that human work went into it, they came from God. And they're given to us by God. And so we give to God back what God has given to us so freely. And when we do that, we do it freely and we do it joyfully. And that's the attitude that we want to foster when we make our pledges to our church. And I want you to pay attention to the word I used. I used the word our, O-U-R, not my. This is our church. It's not my church. Okay? St. John's is not my church. And if we're being very honest, it's actually your church. Right? Even more than it's our church, it's your church. Because priests come and go. Priests come and go. I'm not telling you that I'm leaving or going anywhere anytime soon, just so you know. Okay? But I haven't always been the priest here. And I won't always be the priest here. There will be other priests after me. And we average a new rector here at St. John's about once every 10 years. Okay? So this is your church. This is your church. And may I say, you do such a terrific job of taking care of it. You do. And so let me applaud you for that. Let me applaud you for that. First and foremost, because this is a financially healthy parish. But we also understand it's not a wealthy parish. We don't have as much resources as maybe some other parishes do. We do have funds for a rainy day, provided it doesn't get too rainy. Okay? And we're growing our funds to enhance our campus, to do upkeep and repairs. And we've got funds coming in. We're not quite there yet, but we've done a pretty remarkable job, I must say. But there are things that we want to do as a parish. One of those things is we want to continue to grow. We want to continue to get our name out there. St. John's as a place of refuge and love for all the people of this community. Okay? And there are other things that we want to do when we grow. I would love for us to be able to have a full-time position available for our office administration. And I'd love to be, you're going to like this, I'd love to be able to offer a stipend for our choir director, who right now is doing this out of the goodness of her heart, volunteering to lead our choir. And I'd love to be able to call an associate rector to help with those ministry tasks that we need to continue to do as we continue to grow as a parish. And right now, we're getting by. We are getting by. But with more resources, we could really kick our ministry up to the next level. Now, let me allow me to thank you for your generosity over the past 40 years. Because I think you ought to be commended. I really do. This is, for the most part, a blue-collar parish. And you've built St. John's a reputation across the diocese and across the state. Every time I go anywhere in this diocese or in this state, people know who I am as your rector. People know who I am, and I have no idea who they are. And this includes the event that I went to yesterday with the suicide prevention walk. People know who I am because of you. I'm a visible face of this parish, but people know who I am because of you, because you have put St. John's on the map. Okay? Now, I'm going to say one more thing about money. This is the last thing I'm going to say about money, and that is that I encourage everyone here to prayerfully consider what we can offer of ourselves financially. Now, Susie is going to have more information for us about how to plan our pledges shortly. But I'm hopeful, and I'm fairly confident, that everyone here can offer that true biblical tithe. Imagine what we can do when we put our resources together. Things are only going to keep getting better. They're only going to keep getting better around here. But stewardship is about so much more than just money. Okay? It's about giving of ourselves in so many ways, And you do so many outreach ministries here at St. John's. It's impressive. It's impressive. Ask around. It's impressive. You give of yourselves for the welfare of others. And that, again, is to be commended. It really is. Don't stop doing that. Please don't stop doing that. It warms my heart to be your priest when you're so passionate about doing this work in the world. So keep at it. Keep at it. And we still want to give of ourselves when we can. I want you to prayerfully consider joining the Altar Guild. I want you to prayerfully consider becoming a lector. I want you to prayerfully consider becoming a Eucharistic minister, an usher, a greeter, a member of the choir, a member of the vestry. We will have vestry elections coming up in about 2 months from now. I want to see lots of names of people who want to serve this church on the ballot during our annual meeting. I want you to consider being a Sunday school teacher. We're going to implement a new Sunday school curriculum beginning in early 2025 that will be lectionary based, and it doesn't require any specific training. You do have to pass the background check and, of course, the safe church worker conduct training. But those are the only requirements. I want you to consider doing that. Be able to teach Sunday school. And we might be asking ourselves, well, that's a lot of things you just rattled off. Who can do those things? Who can do those things? And the answer is anyone. Anyone can do those things. Okay? If you can read, you can be a lector. You can be a lector. We already have some of our young parishioners who are serving as lector. And thank you for doing such a beautiful job as lector this morning, Brooklyn. Yeah. We also have young parishioners who are helping us out by serving as ushers or helping us with the video screen in the back. Okay? We have. And these are opportunities that are open to everybody, young and old alike. Okay? We don't have age limits one way or the other for doing ministry here in this church. And the only exception to that are for two things. There's vestry and Eucharistic minister, cupbearer. Okay? And those are church-wide rules that say that you have to be at least 16 to do those tasks. Serve on the vestry and serve communion. Those are the two that you have to be at least 16. But other than that, you can do anything. You can serve in any capacity in ministry here at church. Okay? And that means that, yes, teenagers can serve on the vestry. So I'd love to see some young people put their names in when it comes time for vestry elections. And I'd love to see people of all ages put their names in on the ballot. And it means that young people and old alike can teach Sunday school. You can do all of those things. As long as there are adults present, then our young people can also participate in teaching Sunday school. There are so many ways here at St. John's that we can give of ourselves. And we do it prayerfully, and we do it joyfully. Why? Well, because it helps us to become closer to God and to one another. A few years ago, I went to Italy with my wife. And when we were there, I had some of the best food I've ever had in my life. Some of the best food I've ever tasted. It was just amazing. No matter where we went, every place we went, the food was amazing. And there's one meal that really stands out to me from that trip. It was a pasta dish with seafood, okay? And it had the best tasting pasta I've ever had in my life and the best tasting sauce that I've ever had in my life. And keep in mind, I grew up with an Italian grandma, okay? And this meal was so good that I insisted that my wife have some of mine. Okay? And this was true even though if you look at it, you say, well, this meal was so great, why did you give some of it away? Right? You had less to have for yourself, right? Why would I do that? Why would I insist that she take some of my amazing food? And the answer is because it gave me joy to be able to share something so wonderful with someone who is so wonderful and important to me. Okay? And that's what we do when we participate in stewardship. Because it gives us great joy to be able to give of ourselves and to share something so wonderful with so many wonderful people. We realize when we practice stewardship that we don't actually end up with less of ourselves. We have more of ourselves. We become more fully whole. So Susie, as I said, is going to talk to you in a few minutes about the numbers, right? The X's and the O's, and she's here to help you figure that part out. My role here is to help encourage you to do it prayerfully, to be prayerful, okay? Because if we give of ourselves, just like the widow in today's gospel, we find that we are more fully ourselves. So be your fullest self. Hope grows here at St. John's. Let's continue to plant a garden of hope that will be here for years to come. Amen.